I guess it was an interesting video on Wild Rift. So they're back with patch 2.4 B review. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure if they have sprung this on us already. So the past like 2 days, when I was going into the game, they did say that it was updating, and it did take quite some time to update. So it looks like it did get patched over already. But right before this, I was actually recording my Wild Rift Fundamentals episode 3 on physical damage items, and you guys will see it sooner or later. But I was recording that, and I did cover Solari's Charge Blade. It still said it did true damage, but later on in the patch, you guys will see that the true damage has been changed to magic damage. So, pretty sure the patch isn't live yet. And I believe that update maybe was just downloading the patch, but it's not live. I'm honestly not too sure. So, regardless, we're just gonna cover the patch notes, and from now on, for patch note reviews, I'm actually not gonna do the videos in 4K anymore. I'm actually gonna do it in 720p. Now, the reason for that is 4K videos take way too long to process, and I'm not like a Riot partner or anything, so I don't get the patch notes early. I get it at the same time as you guys, so I gotta get out these videos quickly so that people don't watch like other YouTubers videos on it, and it kind of defeats the purpose of me doing these videos in the first place. So let's quickly jump into the new champions. So we have Brand and Nunu, which was already previously announced in the video where they talked about the changes for patch 2.4. So Brand and Nunu, really exciting. Nunu is a ganking jungler, a tank ganking jungler, so I believe he probably is going to change up the meta quite a bit. There aren't really many tank junglers at the moment, so Nunu might have an interesting, might change the meta and might make it more interesting, whereas Brand he could be played as a mid laner, but he's more played as a support, like a very pokey support, very good team fight, very high damage, especially in late game team fights. So we'll have to see how he changes the meta as well. But I do think that both of these champions will probably be pretty popular. So yeah, we have a couple of skins that these are dropping like tomorrow, and when Nunu and Brand release, they each get 2 skins. So next we are on to the accessories, but before that, we're just going to quickly cover that there's going to be the Frost and Flame event on 9th September, and yeah, so I believe that you probably can get one of them for free, just judging by the past champion releases, but they didn't actually explicitly mention that here, so we don't actually know. So now the event is probably going to be a pretty standard double champion release event, like the Riven Irelia event, the Draven Darius event. It's pretty much all going to be the same. Now my prediction is, I covered the event first because my prediction is that you'll get all of these in the event. My prediction is like on the first, you get to choose like a side whether you want to support Brand or Nunu. Then when you choose a side, let's say you support Brand, when at the first level you're probably gonna get like an icon. Then as you progress, you're probably gonna get a bauble. Then as you progress a little bit later on, you probably get an emote. And then at the final level, probably level 7 of the event, you're probably going to get this border. Now, I'm not sure if you'll get the recall effect from the event, or the recall effect will be something that you can buy for wild cores, because sometimes emotes and recalls are not included in the event. Sometimes they are just for wild cores, but sometimes they are actually included in the event. So if they are included in the event, pretty much you can get everything here from the event itself. Of course, you can only get half of the content, because if you choose like Brand, you can get the gloves and you can get the Nunu icon, as well as the emote. So, but probably I'm guessing that you can probably get quite a bit of these just through the event, which will be on the 9th September. Probably gonna last some time. It's probably gonna be one of those bigger events. This is one of those like mid-tier events. Of course, we just had the arcade and the fluffed event, where those are like small events. Then we have like those sentinels of like those large events. So this is probably those mid-tier events, as my guess. Next, we move on to the champion changes, and there are a lot of changes in this particular patch. So first up, we got Ahri. Ahri has a bug fix where movement speed will now properly decay over time. So apparently she didn't, her movement speed didn't decay over time. So technically, I think this is sort of like a nerf, because of the fact that the bug caused her to not have decaying movement speed. So slight nerf to Ahri, probably not gonna affect her too much. But Akali is getting a very, very huge nerf. Now I say this not because of this particular passive nerf, but later on when we get to the item nerfs, she also gets I shouldn't say she. Haunting Guise and Leandri's Torment does also get a nerf, and her core item is Haunting Guise, which she built first. So, uh, she's gonna she's not gonna be as strong now. Let's just say. But I wouldn't underestimate Akali because she has been nerfed quite a few times, and every time people say she wouldn't be good anymore, she still is, and she still is very meta at the moment. But we shall see if these round of nerfs will actually affect her place in the meta. So the nerfs are, she gets 20% less movement speed on her assassin's mark. That is after you hit a spell on the target, there is that ring around them. You actually gain movement speed when you're walking towards the outer part of the ring to proc it, and after you proc your ring, you get movement speed again when you get your enhanced auto attack. So they are reducing the movement speed of that, and of course Akali needs to move in and out to just proc her passive consistently. So this is gonna affect her being able to proc her passive, and which also will affect her damage indirectly because she needs to proc her passive to basic attack and deal her damage. And her base damage is actually going down at all levels, and the max level is actually going down by a whopping 40, so this could hurt her quite a bit as well. I think these nerfs are pretty I think these nerfs by themselves, I don't think that these nerfs would kill her. I think that they would be a hard hit. But with the item nerfs, I think that she could be in her place in the meta could be in jeopardy. Let's just say. Now next we have Akshan, who they're saying that he is really not doing too much. I agree with that completely, but I feel like he should be in a state where he is not fully viable. I think he should be viable, but I do not think he should be meta. If he's meta, it's not going to be good at all, because if he revives his whole team and if he's overpowered, the enemy team can just do nothing about it. So I don't think he should ever be meta. That's just my opinion. I don't think Akshan should ever be meta. I just think that he should be in a playable state where you are not feeling that you're completely weak and you get sneezed on by like any other champion, but he really shouldn't be too strong. They're buffing his Avengerang again, which is his Q, his boomerang. Damage going up by roughly 5, 10, and 15. So scaling damage going up. At base level, his base damage is still 5. So it goes all the way up to 95. Of course, you do max this first, as you can see, he has amazing scaling. So you do max this first, and 95 damage. Honestly, I think his poke is pretty good. Even without buffs, I think his poke is pretty good. If you get hit by both the boomerang when it goes to you and when it comes back as well, he does have decent poke. So this will help his laning phase quite a bit. He has 2 new aspects of his E and his ult. So his E, his shots can now critically strike for 150% damage. So normally they critically strike for 200% damage, but this is 150, so that's technically a nerf. But when he presses his E, he can attack very, very fast, way faster than his normal attack speed, or even faster than other champions' attack speeds. So he can actually deal a lot of damage, and on his PC counterpart, his E is actually his main point of damage. So I think that this is a overall buff to his E damage, because it can crit, although for less damage, but it can still crit compared to it can crit previously. It's still a damage buff. And on his ult, the damage per tick is increased by crit chance, up to 50 at 100% crit. So the damage can go up by 50% when you reach 100% crit. This is of course the calculations, but essentially it's been given a crit scaling, which is a new aspect of it. So of course now with the increased minion damage in the previous patch 2.4a, combined with the damage being increased by crit. Now Akshan builds crit anyway. He's gonna build normally he builds like Essence Reaver, and then he goes into crit afterwards. So Akshan is gonna be building crit anyway. So overall this is just a buff to Akshan, and as I have mentioned in the previous video, we shall see if Akshan actually gets a place in the meta. I think that this should at least make him decent. I don't think that he should be good after this, but I think he's probably just decent, maybe like a B tier or like end of A tier kind of champion, but we shall see. Now Gragas, they have realized that he's overperforming, so they have nerfed him yet again. His armor going down by just a mere 0.4 per level, of course, but overall across 15 levels, that is not too much armor, considering every 5 levels is roughly 2 armor. So this is just like basically like a 6 armor kind of nerf, or actually 5 armor kind of nerf. It actually does say here it's a 5 armor kind of nerf, so not too huge of a nerf. His Q base damage going down by 15 at the start, but its skills are alright. So what this is really targeting is they're targeting tank Gragas, because tank Gragas will go for a W max or a E-max, whereas a damage Gragas they will max Q anyway, so Q damage is the same at the max level. So they are really just targeting tank Gragas or even like hybrid Gragas, but hybrid Gragas kind of sort of maxes Q in the first place as well, or at least I do. So it kind of really targets like full tank Gragas, which will not max Q until the end. And the Q slow is also going down by roughly 10. It's actually not roughly, it is 10% at all levels, so a little bit of his utility on his Q getting hit as well. His Drunken Rage cooldown going up by another 0.5 seconds. They have given him this nerf before where it went up by like 0.5 seconds or a second or so. So they are really trying to target tank Gragas in my opinion, and he is a little bit too flexible. So I think they're trying to push him to a little bit more of an AP kind of Gragas, but overall I personally do not think these changes will affect him too much. I still think tank Gragas will be very viable, probably still top tier in the Baron lane. So we shall see how that goes. Katarina getting a huge nerf to her health. It's an 80 health nerf. Now, I say huge because normally they only give 40 health nerfs, but they're giving a 80 health nerf, which is double of the normal amount to Katarina. So they're no longer sticking with their favorite 40 health nerf. They're going for a straight 80. Now, Katarina already got a nerf to her AP ratio on her Veracity, her spin passive. But they're giving her a health nerf. Now, after that nerf, a lot of people are already saying Katarina weren't too strong, and only Katarina like one tricks or Katarina mains were really playing her. With this, honestly, I don't think it's going to affect too much because at this point in time, casual Katarina players have already stopped because she's not overpowered. She is relatively balanced, but if you're a one trick or a very skilled Katarina main, you will make her work anyway. So I don't think that this 80 health nerf is going to cause you to not be able to make her work. Although sometimes she has very slim margins when she goes in and gets killed, so this might actually hurt her, but I mean it definitely is gonna hurt her because it's 80 health, but I don't think that it's gonna really hurt her too much because when I see a Katarina running at me, like a Katarina main running at me, I still know I'm gonna be in trouble despite the 80 health less that person has, is what I'm really trying to say. So yeah. Then we have Kennen, who has quite an interesting series of buffs. So here he's getting another 10 damage buff to his Q, which is nice of course, but his W is getting a pretty strange change. So first up, his base damage is going up by 15 at all levels. Now this is really good because his W is his main point of damage the majority of the time because Q is very easy to miss. So W is what I normally max first, and W is your guaranteed damage because it's point and click. And it's also getting a AD and AP ratio change, so it's going to get a scaling AD ratio, which is very interesting because as we know, Kennen doesn't actually build AD, he builds AP. So he does have an AD build, but it's just inferior to the AP build. I'm not sure if this change will Kennen start building AD because it's 100% AD ratio. I doubt it, but its AP ratio is also going up by 5%, so that's also going to help his damage on his W. His E bonus movement speed is going up by 10% at all levels, so they're overall just buffing Kennen all across the board except his ultimate. Now something to take note is that his ultimate was the main issue when Kennen was meta because his ultimate did way too much damage and provided way too much utility in team fights. So they are moving away from buffing his ultimate back to what it was, which of course would be a mistake because it would just lead to the same problem. So instead buffing the rest of his kit to try to make him more viable. I like this approach, and Kennen, even after the last round of buffs, didn't really enter the meta. He did enter the meta for a slight while people were sort of trying him out, trying out the buffs to see if it was good. Most people concluded that it wasn't, so after that like 2 weeks or so, you didn't see Kennen anymore. So they're giving him another round of buffs to try and make him viable. I like that change. We'll see if it helps. Kha'Zix, as I said in my opinion, in solo queue is the top jungler, but they're hitting mainly his sustain. Now, he did get a 10 damage nerf on his Q, which will stack up with the previous Q 10 damage nerf. So overall now it's a 20 damage nerf. So his Q of course is main point of damage. So that is gonna affect him slightly, but honestly I don't think it's gonna affect him too much. His health and his health is going down. His BFS regen going down by 2.5, so this will hurt his sustain in the jungle and just his sustain in general because he's going to be regaining less health. And his Void Spikes, the healing is going down by 15 at all ranks. So Void Spikes, you do max it second, and this is your main point of sustain in your jungle clear. You activate your Void Spikes in close range with the jungle monsters and you heal up. So overall with the base health regen nerf and the Void Spike healing nerf, his sustain in the jungle, especially on his first skill, is gonna be a little bit worse, but overall, it's not really hitting his damage too much except for this, which isn't going to affect him too much in my opinion. So I don't think that Kha'Zix is really going to suffer too much. I think that he's still going to be really good, still going to be top tier. But on his like first gank or so, he probably is going to have less health than he already had. Although if you play Kha'Zix properly, that wouldn't really matter anyway. Now we got the Master Yi nerf. So obviously Master Yi was way over buffed in the previous patch, and they finally realized that what were we doing. So they pretty much reverted some of the buffs. His health per level going down by 10. Wuju style's true damage is going back down to 58 at max level. For comparison, before he was ever adjusted, it was 54. Then they buffed it to 70. Now it's back to 58. So it is sort of now a slight buff from the original Master Yi. Same thing with the Highlander. Highlander before the buffs used to be 85, 75, 65. Now it's 80, 70, 60. So now it's just a slight cooldown buff this ultimate. So now if you ignore patch 2.4a Master Yi and you compare it to patch 2.4 Master Yi, it's a slight buff to his Wuju style true damage, and it's a slight buff to his Highlander cooldown. So I think that this small buffs from Master Yi is alright, but I think they just way over buffed him in the last patch. Everybody pretty much agrees with that, and you have to even ban Master Yi in like Emerald and Diamond, and that's just ridiculous how you have to ban this kind of Master Yi in higher ranks just because of how overpowered he is. Now I think he'd probably be more balanced. I don't think he's going to be top tier anymore after this, but he could still be top tier because they did not touch his Q damage, and his Q is his probably most important skill. So they did not touch his Q damage, so we shall see how it affects him. But I think he's probably gonna drop down a tier or two, but I think he's still gonna be pretty good, just not S plus. I think probably not S plus, maybe like top of A tier kind of champion. Now Rakan getting a range of adjustments actually. His grand entrance is W. Knockup is getting a 10 damage increase across the board. Doesn't really matter too much because you don't really use it for the damage anyway, but of course nice to have more damage. The quickness, movement speed getting buffed by 10%, easier to hit people with the quickness, which is really good. But bonus shield moment casting on Xayah going down from 200% to 125%, pretty much defeating the purpose of the Xayah Rakan lane. Now, in mobile, Xayah Rakan lane barely has I wouldn't say barely has any value, but the only thing that Rakan gets from playing with Xayah is he gives her more shield. He doesn't even get the increased range like how they do have that on PC. He only gets a bit of an increased shield, or I should say double the shield, but now it's only a slight increase of the shield. So if I'm a Rakan main, and I may not necessarily want to play with Xayah all that much anymore, but of course you do get the Xayah attack speed buff from her W, although Rakan is not really a champion who really wants to stay in there and attack anyways, except for like level 1 where you go W on both of them and you just go in at level 1. But interesting changes to Rakan. I think overall the changes will help Rakan because the ultimate buff and the W buff is very helpful. Just that the Bell Dance nerf to Xayah just pretty strange overall. Soraka never really even had time to shine after the buffs, but now she's just getting a nerf straight away. Her Style Core Rejuvenation buff on self is getting the time cut into half. Now, of course, we know that on the previous patch, the W, when you are rejuvenated, when you heal an ally, you don't consume as much HP, but now you only have a 2-second window to do that. Normally you would cast it in the 2-second window anyways, but you know, I think that this was a pretty needless nerf, honestly. I don't think Soraka was running very rampant anyways, and the total rejuvenation heal is actually going down as well. So I don't know about that one. It's going down by about around 10 to 15 kind of range across the levels. So I don't know about that one. AP ratio going down as well, and the rejuvenation buff for ally, of course, is also going down by 2 seconds, cut in half basically. So I don't know about that one. Soraka wasn't really in the meta anyways after the previous buff. I don't know if in like low elo Soraka suddenly became very good or what, but I mean they have to have a reason for the nerf. They do have the statistics, so maybe you know, Soraka did actually affect the low elo quite a bit, so she is getting some nerfs. I overall don't think this will affect her too much, because even with the 2-second nerf, you still can get your heal off, but it's just, I don't know, I think the nerf was pretty needless. I think it probably won't affect it too much though. Thresh getting a pretty huge buff in my opinion. So he's getting 40 HP buff, their favorite number of course, and he's also getting base health regen increase from 7.5 to 11, pretty significant amount. All things considered, 3.5 is pretty significant amount. His soul drop rate going up from 33 to 40%. Of course, bad luck protection unchanged. Nice little joke added in there. If you are just unlucky and you just don't hit the 40%, nothing they can do about that. And his Dark Passage shield strength is actually going up on base level by 10, but at max level it is going down. So what this tells me is, you as a Thresh, you have a choice of whether to max Q or max W. Maxing W is the safer option because it's always going to provide utility, whereas maxing Q, you have to be hitting your Qs consistently to really get value from it. What this is telling me is that trying to push for more aggressive Thresh players who will max Q instead of W, because they're pretty much making it such that putting 1 point in W is better, and leveling your W first, the scaling is worse. So they're kind of like pushing you for a Q max kind of route. And his Flay also getting a charge time reduction from 10 seconds to 6 seconds. That is a huge buff, because the Flay auto attack damage that he gets is pretty nasty, honestly. So with that every 6 seconds, that could be pretty nasty. Now Thresh in lane with his auto attacks could be doing a lot of damage with his catch potential and all. I think Thresh probably gonna go up in priority, probably gonna go up in the tier list. So Thresh, huge buffs. Wukong removed 80% healing reduction modifier when attacking minions on his Q. Now, if you guys weren't aware, when he Q'd minions in the Baron lane, he would actually only get 20% of the heal that he should have. Now, they are actually removing that, and now this means he gets 100% of the heal. Now, this quintuples his heal on his Q in Baron lane. They have been pushing for Wukong Baron lane for the longest time. They have been giving him so many buffs, so many adjustments to make Wukong Baron lane viable. We were having none of that. Wukong jungle was still the way better way to go. With this buff, I honestly believe that Wukong Baron lane would be good, because with this much sustain, Wukong probably is going to trade really well in the Baron lane, and he can just heal up off minions, between those trades and all. So I do think that, Wukong Baron lane would become a thing, but we shall see how it goes. Xin Zhao, of course, really strong early game jungler, getting a 5 armor nerf and a 40 HP nerf, just trying to keep him in line, not really affecting his abilities, but just hitting his base stats a little bit. I like the change. ARAM changes as shown. We won't cover that as usual in the interest of time. We still have a lot to cover though. We still have a lot of item changes to cover. So first up, Solari Charge Blade. They think it's being way too good. Of course, it did get a 100 gold nerf previously, and now it's getting a huge ability haste nerf from 25 to 15, and its true damage is now going to become bonus magic damage instead. Now, it's not the worst to become magic damage. Of course, true damage is the best because it's just unaffected by anything, but magic damage, having bonus magic damage on like physical damage characters is still alright, because it just means that they probably won't itemize magic defense against you, although this magic damage is honestly pretty negligible anyway. So I can't say negligible, I would say it's pretty low amounts anyway. So even if they did build magic resist, it's probably not going to help them all that much, not too much value. So Solari Charge Blade, really sad. Just true damage is just gone. The item, I guess, was just too good. Honestly, it was. The item was just so good. So no more true damage. Ability haste going down. That sucks for AD carry mains like me. So yeah. Warmonk's armor getting a adjustment where instead of the condition being 2500 maximum health, it's now 950 bonus health. So now to get this item, you have to opt into health. So you have to build items that give you health, like let's say Black Cleaver, and you have to have 950 bonus health to get the Warmonk's passive, which is another indirect nerf to Soraka, who actually could build Warmonk's armor as her second item as well. And Warmonk's armor in general is not a very popular item. Even tanks don't really build Warmonk's armor anyways. It's not really like a last item kind of option. So this honestly might make it more viable. I have no idea, but we'll have to see how this changes. It might not even affect anything because no one just builds it anyway, so it might not even affect anything at all. Now, mage items have a really interesting bunch of changes. So, Awakened Soul Stealer 5 AP buff probably doesn't really matter too much. No one really builds that anyway, it sucks. Lunan's Echo, 10 ability haste buff, which is pretty huge, it doubles, and 5 AP buff. So Luna's Echo, Rush as the first item, it became way more good, but Haunting Geist and Liandry's Torment, of course, is the quintessential magic damage item. Like pretty much every magic damage dealer always builds this just because of the madness passive, but the 10% damage increase is now only up to 6%, which of course per second goes down from 2 to 1.2. So this is a pretty huge nerf to the item, and pretty huge nerf to AP champions in general. AP champions like Akali, who builds Haunting Geist first, like Oriana, who builds Haunting Geist first as well, and maybe even like Ziggs. Ziggs doesn't build Haunting Geist first, but he does build Haunting Geist eventually. So it's a pretty huge nerf to the Haunting Geist and the Liandry's Torment. More to the Haunting Geist than Liandry's Torment. Most people don't complete Liandry's Torment until way later in their build. They normally just go for Haunting Geist first. So this nerf, I think it was warranted because Haunting Geist was definitely very strong. So this will definitely shake up the meta, along with the Charge Blade change and the Haunting Geist change. Will definitely shake up the meta. We have to see how it goes. And Font of Life getting a AP ratio nerf on its healing by 10%. On both self and allies. Now, it won't affect some champions like, let's say, Braum, who doesn't really build AP anyway, but it will. I feel like this change is mainly targeting Nami, who is, and maybe even Lulu, who are definitely Font of Life supports who build AP items. So I feel like that is the main target of these nerfs because enchanters are being very popular at the moment. So I think they're sort of trying to shake up the support meta with these Fun of Life nerfs and like the Thresh buffs and the Soraka nerfs, the Rakan buffs, that kind of thing. So that's it for the patch 2.4b review. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.